So, is Velociraptor here? Atheist Velociraptor, you got a super chat. I wanted to, if you're here, I'll answer it. No. Velociraptor, are you here? All right. Here. That. What's this? Aiming. Oh. Where's my camera? Yes, atheist Velociraptor. I did see your super chat. How long have I been playing guitar? I've been playing on and off for probably about, how long have I been playing? 4 or 5 years, I guess. Maybe 4 or 5 years. I think that's about right. I don't really play consistently. All right, now. Where's my face at? Yeah, there it is. There it is. Hey, my face shows up. My face shows up now. Yeah, and this guy can go over here. Yoink. 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 I can just put it down here, I guess. That's fine. Put it down there. Put it down there. All right, now let's do some origami too. No, I don't want restream chat. I want chat box. Chat box can go down here. That. Up here. Let's move it up here. That. There we go.
And you're not basing that on facts.
I wholeheartedly disagree. I still don't understand. I'm perplexed what you believe Satan to be. You did say you believe Satan to be an agent of God, which means that you would almost hold in the position in your mind that if he's an agent of God, that he's also on God's side per se.
Have you read Job?
So easy. I guess at this point, Flashy sort of indicated that he wants to cease right now, and I think that that's fair.
Yeah, absolutely.
To be fair, he did. Okay.
Yeah, look,
I would have
look,
Flashy on his interlock role at that point.
I don't, because I don't actually know what he knows. It's fine. Anyway, Flashy, thank you for having the conversation. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And easy.
Yeah.
Thank you for having everyone ask you all the hard questions today.
I've really had fun. Thank you.
Yeah.
I've actually wanted to talk to him, but oh well, that's fine.
What is the significance of both the Babylonian king and Jesus being called the morning star?
The Babylonian king was a representation of the fall of the first Jerusalem, the first temple. Pretty much like the destruction of the Jews. In essence, that's what they were referring to.
Ephesians 5:1. Be imitators of God.
I'm sorry, guys. Because I'm not nice anymore.
All right, Shadow.
I'm sure you're doing your best.
Thank you for your service, dude. Thank you.
No, it's just too much stupidity. It just can't take it anymore.
There we go.
Yeah, sometimes it hurts. I know.
So what are you guys talking about?
Bullshit. What's going on?
And then he was here, and then he left.
Testing. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? No.
I'd like
Well,
that we could do it in public if we could. But
Is this public?
yeah,
Yes.
well, you did a really good job. I mean,
Testing.
you sat up
Testing,
here not
testing, testing.
expecting
Nope.
to have everyone throw every question in the world at
Testing.
you, and you dealt with Mr. Batman forever. So
Yeah, we
good
can
job.
hear you, Tom.
Okay, fixed my mic now. Good. What are you guys talking about?
thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it.
Gotta
Oh
hand to
no,
you.
it was a pleasure.
It was nice listening to you to the whole thing. Probably the most interesting conversation ever.
And for everyone that's curious, yes, I have a radio voice. Yes, I've done radio in the past. I know I've got that.
Wait, here's a legit question. Feel free to disconnect me off the stage if it feels too offensive, but are you high?
Drunk, not high.
Oh, you're drunk. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Fair. So T-Jump, Easy Rider joined the stage, and we found out that he is an ex-pastor from Australia, and it sort of devolved into question time with Easy Rider for a long time, and he's actually been a really good sport about it. So it kind of worked out really well.
I've had
Cool.
fun. I really have. Not that I've answered all the questions appropriately, but I've had fun. So I appreciate it.
I don't know if I want to recap, but you did ask him, like, how do you distinguish the correlation between the Lucifer, the bright morning star, and Jesus being connected? But it did feel like he was avoiding that entirely. Or that, or
Well,
he was.
I'm happy to have that discussion if you want.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I thought it was fair. I mean, when he said he was starting to not want to talk anymore, it's fair to let him off the stage. That was my only point, you know.
well, no. Well, if somebody has a question that I think I can answer, or at least give an answer for, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, I don't think he could answer your question was the problem. I don't think he had the answer for that.
No,
Yeah,
there are questions you're going to bring to me that I'm not going to be answering. There's nothing I can bring.
Do I prefer viewers on Discord or like I don't care. It doesn't make a difference to me where people view.
No. I'm gonna step off the stage. It was a pleasure listening to you, Easy Rider. Thanks for helping out, Josh, Ziz, for the questions.
Right.
I mean, I guess maybe Twitch. Twitch might be the best because Twitch is what I'm trying to grow. All right.
So, what's going on with people? How you all doing?
Hey, so T-Jump, are you a solipsist?
No.
I've heard you use that in a couple debates. I guess one against Jay Dyer, the other against Matt Slick. Were you just using it as a way to
I never use solipsism. I mean, I use
like
epistemic.
Cartesian? Yeah, epistemically, not metaphysically.
Yeah, epistemically, that just means the first thing you know is that you exist. Like everybody pretty much agrees with that. That doesn't make you a solipsist. A solipsist is somebody who believes there's no external minds other than your own.
Okay. So would you say that mind, consciousness, and the knowledge of our own self-existence can at least be known absolutely?
Yeah, your own can. Yes.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Yes, your own consciousness can be known absolutely. You can know that you exist, that you can't be wrong.
All right. So how do you justify external materiality or the objectivity of
Novel testable
the
predictions.
external world? I'm sorry?
Novel testable predictions. Your brain is not very good at predicting the future. If you have a model that can accurately predict the future, it more likely corresponds to reality than your imagination does.
No, that's not what I'm asking. Is how do you justify that an external world exists
Novel,
at all?
testable predictions.
What do you that you could certainly use that as evidence, but that's not a proof. Like,
Well, you
how
don't
do
need to prove anything
justify?
if there's evidence. That
Well,
justification doesn't require proof. If you have evidence, that's a justification.
how would you justify proof?
Well-
No, I'm saying okay. So there's obviously evidence that it could be to the contrary as well. So if we're just
So
providing evidences,
that doesn't matter.
so
The
I'm
fact
saying
that there, that doesn't, it doesn't
how do
matter.
you actually justify?
Evidence.
So,
Wait,
okay, so
stop,
we
stop,
can
stop.
know
You're
we can-
confused. You're
Sure.
confused about how evidence works. Evidence. There can be evidence for and against something, but if the evidence for is greater than the evidence against, then you're justified in believing it. Novel testable predictions are evidence for the fact that there is an external world because the model says there's an external world and it works.
But that could happen in a dream as well.
It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. So that was the part I covered before.
Yeah.
No,
matter.
literally, anything that's happening right now is also something possible within.
Doesn't
the dream.
matter
How does that not matter?
because that's how novel
How-
testable predictions work.
So what I'm saying is we can know absolutely that a mind exists, and we can know absolutely that we are conscious, right?
Yep.
But how do we know absolutely?
We don't know
the
absolutely, and we
external-
don't need to. You don't
So
need.
we know
not-
it-
You can still know
Okay,
it without
so-
certainty.
Oh,
So let me ask a question. If there's a theory which can use just those two constituent components that we can know absolutely to explain everything without having to add,
The one that makes
the
novel predictions
externality.
wins.
I'm sorry.
The one that makes novel predictions is the better one.
Okay, so how about reconciling hard determinism and libertarian free will?
There is no libertarian free will. Problem solved.
Well, I believe it's just an experience, so I would agree with that in a sense, sure. But how do you justify that we experience this thing that some call free will?
We have a sensation. Like the fact that we have a sensation doesn't mean it's true. Like we experience illusions all the time. Like
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly my point. How do you know that this isn't an illusion?
that
How
what
do you know that you're not dreaming right now?
novel testable predictions. If you made novel testable predictions about free will, then we would have evidence for free will too.
No, that doesn't prove that you're not dreaming.
You don't need proof. You just need evidence.
No, you can have evidence to the contrary of what's
Doesn't
actually
make a
true if
difference.
you-
You just don't know what evidence is. Like you're confused. Evidence can be for something, and you can have evidence against something. It doesn't matter. You just
Sure.
need more evidence for than against.
Let's start there then. What evidence against this being a dream do you have? And novel
Yep,
testable
novel testable predictions. That answers
that's
the
not-
question.
That's because it could be used to the contrary as well. We're dreaming
No,
of continuity and
no, it can't.
causation.
No, it can't.
Coherency through causation.
Stop. No, it
Yes,
can't. You can't
that's
use novel
possible within
test.
a dream.
No, if
You can-
no,
you
stop
can
stop
dream.
talking. Stop talking. There are no novel testable predictions made by the dream hypothesis. The only people making novel predictions are the ones that say we're in an external world. There are no novel predictions that we're in an idealist world. There are lots of novel predictions we're in a physical world. I'm playing origami too.
I don't know what you're saying. In my
Who
hypothesis, you can certainly make testable predictions.
Stop.
There's coherency.
I'm going to mute you. Name a person who has ever made a novel testable prediction that we live in a dream that has been shown to be true.
So you can't disprove the possibility.
You're not answering the question.
Can we start there?
Who has made a novel testable prediction that we're in a dream that has come true?
Such as, what do you mean by a novel testable prediction? Then demonstrate one type.
Okay, the sun will rise tomorrow. Oh, that's not
The sun-
novel. It's
but
just a prediction.
Yeah, but that could happen in a dream as well.
Doesn't matter who made the prediction. Whoever makes the prediction wins. It's that simple.
I don't know what it's possible in both.
It doesn't make a difference. That's a stupid argument. You have to be an idiot to think that's relevant.
No.
Here's how it works. Here's how it works.
I'm
If I
asking
say
you to justify what you
stop,
don't know
stop,
absolutely,
mute,
because I can-
stop, mute. If I have a hypothesis that the world is 13.8 billion years old, And I predict that if the world is 13.8 billion years old, we will measure the light particles, whatever, at a certain redshift, and we measure them and say, oh, look, they're at the redshift that I predicted. My hypothesis wins. Now, the fact that you can explain it with other hypotheses, like maybe God just bent the light in a silly way, doesn't matter. That's not evidence of God. My hypothesis wins, like definitively. It doesn't even count as evidence for yours. The fact that you can post hoc say, oh, my hypothesis can explain the same thing, everyone can do that. That's called ad hoc reasoning. That's not evidence. The one who makes novel predictions first wins every time, without a doubt. It only even counts as evidence for the one that makes the predictions. So if I make predictions and I get them right, I win, you lose.
That doesn't make any sense, because all of what you just said is also possible within a dream.
No, it's not possible in a dream. No, it's not possible. Whoever is first wins. Dream hypothesis was not first. It makes no novel predictions. You lose.
That makes no sense.
Yes, it does. It makes perfect sense.
Whoever gets to unanswer first wins.
Yeah, whoever
it's possible.
Yes, whoever gets
answer you can come up.
Yes, whoever gets the answer correctly first has the evidence. The evidence works for the person who gets the answer correctly first, not the fact that a bunch of dumbasses can explain the evidence after the fact. No one cares. Problem solved. I can explain we're not in a dream because novel predictions were made for the hypothesis that we live in an external world, and no novel predictions were made for the fact that we live in a dream. Therefore, the only hypothesis that supported external world. That's why the vast majority of philosophers and scientists say, oh, guess what? We're in an external world. So until you can make novel predictions, dream hypothesis is not supported. It's stupid, and there's no evidence to support it. Next question, anybody?
Oh, well, I'm going to expand on that just a little bit. We can't know what we don't know, therefore we can't make hypotheses on what we don't know, right?
No, you can make hypotheses on anything you want. A hypothesis is just your imagination. I imagine that this is the case, and if this is the case, here is what I'm going to predict is going to happen in the future. You can make hypotheses all you want.
Let me clarify. We are under no obligation to accept an hypothesis, perhaps.
Until it gets proven correct with evidence, yeah.
Which would no longer be an hypothesis, right?
Right, then it would be a supported theory.
So we're under no obligation to accept an hypothesis about X. It doesn't matter what X might be.
Sure. Is this what I do full time? Pretty much, yeah.
That's a good gig.
Well, it's what I do full time. I just don't broadcast it. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that you're doing what I'm doing. It's just that you are more popular than I am.
What would I be wrong about?
Again, I'm not saying you're wrong.
It's just a strange statement because I don't see, I don't think anyone could have interpreted that as you saying I was wrong. You're saying you do it too? Like, okay.
No, absolutely. I do it too. I'm just not popular.
Isn't it just as simple as just like the scientific method at the end of the day? Or is it kind of similar to that?
What?
Yes, I think in reference to how we show there's an external world, yeah, it's the scientific method.
Makes sense. Yeah, because that's generally what we do in science. We hypothesize, we test our ideas, because I have some ideas about how the universe works that contradicts everything. It doesn't matter, it's just my ideas. Fuck it.
Yep.
But you use the real world to test it, and if it matches, there's evidence for it. That doesn't mean it's true or not, but it's just, it validates it a little bit, and then you keep going and going and build upon it, and then therefore you have all the foundations of physics that we have. So.
Yep. So the fact that, I'm stuck. All right, here you go.
It's not that hard to understand, guys.
The objection people make is that they can explain all the data with the second hypothesis, therefore none of the evidence actually works for the first hypothesis. That's incorrect because it doesn't matter if you can explain the data after the fact. Like everybody can do that. Like anybody who believes in God can explain the fact that the global flood evidence looks like there's a global flood. They can say just, oh, God used magic and stuff. Uh-oh. There you go. So they can always explain the data with a second hypothesis. That doesn't mean it's not evidence that the world is millions of years old. It just means that you can use ad hoc reasoning to make the evidence fit any hypothesis. So the evidence goes to the one that makes predictions first, not the one who can make the evidence fit a second hypothesis after the fact. No one cares about that.
Oh, that's where it becomes powerful, yeah.
Well, that's inductive versus deductive, right?
No. Induction is when you use some examples to come to a conclusion. Deduction is when you use a logical proof that the premises follow from a conclusion. Those are separate things. The fact that the hypothesis that's first, the reason why it's better is because it's very easy to use ad hoc reasoning to make evidence fit your hypothesis. Anybody can do that. It's very, very hard to make a hypothesis that can accurately predict the future that we don't know yet. So it's very easy to just explain stuff we already know. It's very hard to explain stuff we don't know yet.
Which is where the problem of induction comes into play, right?
No.
Why?
Why would induction have anything to do with that?
All right. Newton used the problem of induction to correlate
was Hume.
for this, right?
What?
It derives from Hume.
Oh. Yeah,
Hume
I was asking.
Hume was
That
just
doesn't.
saying-
I know about the history of the problem of induction. I want to know why he's bringing it up as if it's relevant to the previous conversation.
Yeah, me too.
I'm not trying to make a point. What I'm asking you is, this is inductive versus deductive, right?
No. Inductive versus deductive. A deductive argument is like all men are mortal. Socrates is a man. Socrates is mortal. That's a deductive argument. You're just inferring the conclusion based off of the premises of the argument. Induction is using probabilistic data to try and come to a conclusion. Oh.
Which is where Hume came into play with his problem of induction.
Yeah, but what does that have to do with what I said? Because what I said is that a hypothesis that's first is better than a hypothesis that uses ad hoc reasoning. So I'm not talking about induction here. I'm talking about a different principle entirely. I'm talking about the problem of underdetermination.
What I'm trying to say is that you're right, and here's why I think you're right.
Okay.
Perhaps I'm not explaining this clearly.
I don't see the relevance to induction, but anyone else got any questions, comments, stuff to talk about?
Maybe. I don't know.
Hey, yeah, I have a question for you, Jump.
Okay.
I wanted to ask, do you think that truth is based on physical matter, or is matter based in metaphysical truth?
No, matter isn't based in truth. Truth doesn't exist. Truth is a description of things that exist.
So, because I was coming from the kind of perspective of a circle can't exist without some kind of potential, for it, and
No.
that potential has to come from somewhere.
No. Reality holds the potential.
Reality.
Yeah, reality.
Yeah.
All potentials are instantiated in reality. Nothing else. So if there's a potential for a circle, it's because reality exists. That's where the potential comes from.
Yeah, but you're ignoring the fact that
How am I ignoring anything there?
The laws of reality are always haven't been what they are now, and
that
they
wouldn't make a
say
difference.
that nature is. What are you talking about? Okay, what do you, I don't.
If reality doesn't allow for the potential of a circle, then there's no potential of a circle. So for a circle to have a potential, reality would have to allow for it. So if at some point in reality there was no potential of a circle, then there wouldn't be a circle. It doesn't. I'm not assuming anything there. It's irrelevant.
Okay, all right, yeah, that's all. That's I guess that's the only question I got for now.
All right.
Well, maybe I do have a question for Jump.
Go for it.
If you want to talk about it. I don't really care either way or the other.
You have to ask the question first before I know.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I'm weird. But anyway, the speaking about like life on the universe, every life, is it just random chance?
Determined by physical forces.
Okay, can you explain what you mean? Maybe my brain's just slow, so.
Life is a result of physical forces. It is determined by the existence of the physical forces. And so every life that comes about is a result of physical forces. Am I planning on debating my Muslims? Like if they come on my channel, or if anybody sets them up for me, like people doing setup debates would be great. Ilmatic had the one on the 22nd, right, with Randall Rouser, was it? Right? The QnA?
The Quantum Foam was the person who set that up.
It's Quantum Foam, credit to Quantum Foam, not to Ilmatic.
Yeah, it seems like at the end of the day, like whether or not life is the result of random chance, quote unquote, it still holds the fact that the universe as it exists with its physical laws and chemistry and biology, it would still produce life, whether or not it's random or quote unquote predetermined by physical laws or I guess maybe a god. It still exists, so therefore it's still here. It just whether the determination of how it came to be is predetermined is something to be argued, but without evidence of a god, then we should defer to physics and biology and chemistry, right?
Yeah, we all agree on that.
Well, yeah, I'd say that we would just wait for evidence one way or the other. Right now, there's tons of evidence on biology, so that's why we defer to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think any reasonable person understands that every single human's conception was quote unquote random, that their parents met at this time and had copulation with each other at this time, and that your sperm and their egg met at this time. You could call that random, but it still happened, and
it's more like determined by physics.
Parameters of physical laws, right?
That's determined. So that'd be all determined. That wouldn't be random.
I feel like biological life is more complicated. Somebody, I haven't kept track of this argument, but somebody brought out the name, the watchmaker analogy or watchmaker argument. I'm not still not 100% sure if that's.
Yeah, Paley's argument.
What about it? What about the watchmaker argument?
Can you explain what it is?
Yeah, if somebody walks up on a beach and sees a watch, they would intuitively think that it was designed and not just a random process of nature. So there's really complicated things like watches. If we found them on the beach, we're going to think they're designed. We look at the universe, it's really complicated, therefore it must be designed like a watch. That's the argument.
Is it strictly to the universe, or what about life in general? Because
yeah, you can apply it to.
Regard them as two separate things.
Yeah, you can apply it to anything you want. You can apply it to the universe, to life. You apply it to lots of different things. It doesn't work for any of them, but you can apply it to them.
Can you explain why it doesn't work for or biological life?
Yeah, sure. So the reason we see a watch and we know that it's designed is because there's no natural process that produces watches. So we're not going to find a watch in a volcano because watches aren't produced by natural processes. There are natural processes that produce life. It's like there's a diamond or whatever. If we find a diamond, we're not going to think it's designed because we know that there's a natural process that does that. So designed things like watches are only evidence of design when we know of no natural process that makes them, and we do know of a design process that makes them. If we don't know of either, then it's not evidence for either. So, for example, if we just find a tesseract on a beach, tesseract. Do you know what a tesseract is?
Is it the fourth dimension thing?
Yeah, it's a four-dimensional object. It's a four-dimensional square.
Yeah.
So, if we found a tesseract on a beach, would you say it's designed? Well, no. Would you say it's a natural process? Well, no. We wouldn't know. We wouldn't know one way or the other. So it's unreasonable to say one way or the other whether it's designed or not until we actually have evidence for it. And so simply finding a complicated object doesn't mean it's designed. Complicated does not equal design.
Unless you can explain it in biology, physics.
What?
Or something. Or like some other, like if you can explain it to...
No. So if we came up with an object that we couldn't explain, we have no explanation for it whatsoever, design doesn't work. Like if we say, oh, look, an unidentified flying object, a UFO, does that mean it's aliens? Well, no, because it's unidentified. It could be lots of different things. We don't know what it is. The same thing applies to the watch. If we come upon a watch, does that mean it's designed? No, it just means we don't know what made it. So in the case of a watch, the reason why a watch is a bad example is because we know watches are made by humans. We know there is no natural process that produces watches. But there isn't a natural process that we know of that produces tesseracts. So it's a better analogy to use tesseract because it's more representative of what life is. We don't know what produced life. We haven't proven it one way or the other yet. But we do have reason to believe it's natural processes because that's what all the evidence indicates. We don't have any reason to believe it's designed. Simply the fact that it's complicated does not mean design.
It's like if you walk along a river and you see a collection of sticks blocking up the flow of water. Do you assume that it is just randomly collected pile of sticks from the flow of water, or did a bunch of beavers construct this dam? And you could look at either one, and they look the same, very similar, and until you have concrete evidence that one was designed by beavers and one that was just coincidentally constructed by the flow of the water, then it would be arrogant and foolhardy to just automatically assume, well, it looks designed, so it's complicated, so therefore it must be designed by someone or something.
Like the point of Paley's argument is that if you look at a watch, you get this intuition. It feels like it's designed. And you look at life and it feels like it's designed. But feelings aren't evidence. So you would need to identify some property in the watch that indicates design. And Paley's argument is complexity. It's really complex, therefore design. But we've proven there's extremely complicated things that come about by random chance and necessary physical forces all the time. So just seeing something that's complex and you get this intuition that it feels designed isn't evidence of design. You would need some kind of evidence of a process by which that thing is designed by X designers. Otherwise, it's not evidence of design.
What would be considered evidence?
Seeing a designer make a human or a life. So, like if we went to another planet, we saw like a big processor that was making DNA-based life. That would be good evidence that DNA was probably designed.
I think like another good example or a hole that's very evident in Paley's argument once you because his analogy was constructed before Darwin and before the theory of evolution is you find a watch on the beach and whoa, it's complex. I guess it must have been designed. Well, if we just found a random life form in the world that might seem like it's must be so complex that it was designed in of itself. But I think a more realistic example of walking on a beach, finding a pocket watch, would be more indicative of reality if we also dug under the sand and we found a sundial, a less quote unquote complicated form of timekeeping, and then we dug a little deeper and we found other transitional stages of the pocket watch in this scenario, because that's the world that we really live in, where there's life and it's complex as we look at it, but when we look at the pre-existing life, we see that it has changed over time. It didn't just come here super complex as it is. There were predecessors that made it more and more complex as time went on, and that would punch a big hole in the argument that, someone complicated must have just dropped a watch on the beach, instead of, natural processes must have developed watches in this scenario that got complex over time by the process of natural selection and evolution.
So what is the natural process?
Abiogenesis, like all of the research in abiogenesis done by all of the scientists, which all indicates, it's natural. It's like all of the evidence in the field indicates it's natural processes, and there's tons of it. You can see Professor Dave's response video to, what's his name? The famous creationist guy who's on all of the shows. I forgot his name, but Professor Dave did a response video to him and showed lots of different evidence that shows it's all natural processes.
Are you talking about Ray Comfort?
No, the good one,
No,
not the bad one.
Ken Hovind?
No,
good one.
no, like an actual PhD, I think anesthetist or something. Funny little short guy.
Yeah, James something. James something.
Yeah,
or
James
other.
Tour. James Tour.
Sure. That's
Okay.
the one, yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's like a big thing that people like to look or disregard when they're looking at, like, how do we know that life was created? Well, it's so complex. Surely it couldn't have arisen by natural processes. But then when you look at the natural history of life, you see that it started less complex and became more complex based on the evidence that we've seen in, like, the fossil record or pre-existing life forms, that it wasn't just boom a pocket watch. It was slowly built up from a simple sundial to a pocket watch to maybe a digital watch. And when you understand the full history of, like, natural progression of life forms on Earth, it's not just all one history of watches were here and then they weren't here. We have life forms that progressed over time, developing more and more complex systems as they evolved and adapted to their environment.
Well, I think his question was what would be evidence of design, not what would be evidence of not design.
Yeah, TJM, you answered it. I'm actually recording. Not. I'm not gonna upload it.
That's okay. You can. I'm broadcasting, so you can record whatever you want.
Oh, you're broadcasting?
Yep.
Oh fuck! I didn't even know that.
Oh my God! You shouldn't have admitted to killing those babies. Now everyone knows.
Well, that's good though, because it's because you brought up some names, and I'm gonna relook at the footage and look at it, because my brain is a little slow. So.
But like.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Actually, go first, and then it takes me some time to get my thoughts. So go ahead.
Okay, I mean, just to reiterate, like, one more time, like, if you looked at the history of the Earth and you saw, like, microscopic organisms, single-celled, then multicellular, and then things that are more and more complex in their physiological structures, in their digestive, reproductive systems, it would be easy to see how things go from simple systems to complex systems over time, just with a simple progression of physical, biological, and chemical parameters that would increase their complexity over time. And there's no need to appeal to an even more complex system in this case a god, just dropping the complex system into existence when we have this record of ancient organisms that were simpler, became more complex, and became the complex systems that we see today. There seems to be no justification to appeal to something that is more complex to explain something complex now, when we could just look at the evidence and show how things gradually became more complex by a process of selection and adaptation.
I agree with that. I'm just trying to understand this whole thing. It's biology is to me it's like the very complicated subject, but I actually agree with what you said. Like it starts to sound simple, and then this thing becomes more complex as time goes on.
Yeah,
I'm
and
just trying
and
to know
to
the process
Paley's
behind this
credit,
whole thing.
yeah, and to Paley's credit, he didn't have the benefit of having Charles Darwin really categorizing and condensing this natural history of life on Earth in such a way that it seems so obvious to him at the time, because he wrote the watchmaker argument long before Darwin presented his theory of evolution. So I can't really blame the guy for not seeing the obvious progression of simple to complex by natural processes. And I've heard some people argue that, hey, Paley was a smart guy. If he knew the information that Darwin did, he probably would have also agreed in evolution as he did if he knew the evidence that Darwin did at the time.
Anybody else got any questions? If anybody wants to join the chat and ask questions from my YouTube chat, there's the Discord link right above my head. Join that to ask questions.
What do you think is the best and worst argument for theism?
Arguments? I think the best evidence is, of course, the Hinduism prediction of the age of the Earth. That's the best evidence. The worst argument is the ontological argument. It's a complete joke. I
agree.
It's pretty much as bad as the lights and colors prove God argument. It's that bad.
Thanks for answering the question.
And the best is obviously the transcendental one, right, T-Jump?
The tag argument? Precept?
It's a joke. I know you don't like it.
It's almost as bad as
I would say the argument from reason is one of the better ones.
Don't know why. Yeah, any of the arguments from here's this thing and it presupposes a God are just all dumb.
I'm sort of curious about the idea of best arguments for theism here. Are we gonna say that the best arguments for theism are the arguments that work the best, or are we gonna say that the arguments convert more people, or are we gonna say the best arguments are the ones that seem more sound?
I could definitely give you some of those that work best for people.
Well, it seems like your first and third criteria were the same. So the arguments that work the best and the arguments that are the most sound are the same thing. But the arguments that convince the most people, obviously that doesn't matter. There's a bunch of new agey woo people who convince people with just complete bullshit arguments. So the amount of people who are convinced doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's not about a popularity. It's about the appeal that the argument has. Whether or not it's valid, I think, is separate from how many people it convinces.
Yeah. But when I think of a successful argument, I mean one that's sound, that actually makes sense.
Okay, yeah, that's why I thought we were talking about what's a good argument and what's a convincing argument. Is that kind of what you were asking?
Well,
Like,
yeah, I mean, it just sort of poses the second question then, which is, what is the argument that you think convinces more people to become Christians or to become atheists in the alternative? Is it just an emotionally appealing
Yep.
argument?
Pine Creek Theorem and Burn in Hell.
Can I say this real quick?
exactly.
Just
Yep.
a quick thing. TJM, you said in your words that the biological life, the process, that there's no proof whether it's even if it's proof for intelligent design, even if miraculously is proof, it's not generally proof that there's a god or something. So it can, but did you said that it's like not proof for a god for intelligent design or not? You said that it doesn't, but it just points towards not.
What? I have no idea what you're asking right now. So if we discovered that DNA was designed, that would be evidence of design. That wouldn't be evidence of a god. For evidence of a god, you need novel predictions of the god. So like the
Let's
god.
say design, or like let's say intelligence design or something.
What about it?
Would there? You know what? Never mind.
T-Jump,
What?
would you agree that from what we see of our DNA or any DNA, that if it was designed by a complete babbling buffoon?
Not
Because it is
necessarily.
so full of holes, so full of junk crap that doesn't even need to be there. It is literally a dumpster fire, our DNA. So if it was designed by anything, it would have to be designed by a complete fool that didn't know what they're doing.
Not necessarily.
Absolute bluther.
No.
Can I answer that?
Not necessarily.
No engineer is going to design something that bad.
No, not necessarily. No. So yes, people design bad things all the time. People can design programs that yes, they can. So people can design programs like in computers that are really messy, and like I do this with video games all the time where I have a code that doesn't work and I add stuff to it and just keep adding stuff to it until it works, just barely. And it's a complete mess, just absolute garbage. But it works, and I'm happy with it, and I'm too lazy to try and perfect it. So people do lazy work all the time.
Humans. Yeah, humans.
Yeah, designer.
But
When you say
does
designer,
God-
no. When you say designer, it applies to any designer. So this would apply to anyone. There's absolutely no. Wouldn't matter
I'll
which
be more
one.
precise. Yeah, I'll be more precise. The religion God was supposed to have designed us.
Yes, it would still
He is not
apply.
a very good God. He is worse than a human.
I don't know.
Can I address this?
Where is this conversation going?
I have no idea.
What game are you playing, T-Jump, by the way?
Origami 2.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So the guy who was saying that our DNA is a jumble and a mess and very obviously not designed. You kind of have a point, but the jury's still out on exactly what is going on, and I think it's quite likely that all that other DNA is actually crucial in the organization of the DNA within the nucleus.
Nope. So that the jury is solved on that one. So we definitely know junk DNA is junk DNA. It does some stuff, but it doesn't do anything required. You can get rid of all of it, and this thing will still survive. It is junk DNA. He is correct about it being junk DNA.
I'm not sure that's true.
I am. I am definitely sure that's true. That is the consensus in biology.
You can't get rid of. It depends how you define junk DNA.
Yeah, that's true. But in biology, there is no debate on how you define junk DNA. The debate is among creationists who say that any attachment qualifies as a function when it definitely doesn't.
Okay, but what studies have been done where they've taken large chunks of DNA?
Well, there's tons of those.
All the junk DNA. You said all the junk DNA can be deleted, and
I didn't say that. I said lots of it.
Okay.
So you probably could get rid of pretty much all of it, though. There's lots of studies that get rid of lots of it, so it's not even a controversial thing.
I don't know about lots of it. I think you can delete sections of DNA and you still get a functional organism because I've actually done that. But to call all the DNA that isn't coding DNA, for example, To call that all junk is wrong. And to suggest that it's all, I mean, there's definitely evidence that it's arisen like not randomly, but due to other biological processes like viral insertions and so on.
Yeah.
Well, the Chinese have figured out it's about 80% so far that they could literally delete, and we would be formed properly and live normal with no problems.
Well, nobody's done that with humans. That's for sure.
They are
I'm pretty
referencing
sure.
human in that
I'm
study.
pretty sure it's not been done with.
Why does it matter if
other
it's been done with
mammals either.
humans? It doesn't make a difference if it's been done with humans or not.
No, but it hasn't been done with mammals either.
That still wouldn't matter. If it works the same way in all the species, it does. If it works the same way in all the species, DNA is DNA no matter which animal it works in. So if you have non-coding DNA in one animal and you take it all out, it's going to work the same way as non-coding DNA in another animal.
Well, again, that's
The
not
rumors
quite
is
true.
they did a fertilized embryo with 20% of its DNA left, and it was having no problem forming and starting to develop. With 80% of it missing, they had a human embryo started. They didn't take it too far because of the ethic, but they took it far enough to show that it would have formed. So we know that we can take rid of 80% of our DNA and dump it, and we'd be fine. Like you said, T-Jump, not all of that, but about 80% so far they figured out. Man, I love high-power computers that they got now. Then they got another thing running too to figure out how the abiogenesis start. And last time I checked, it was down to about 13 different ways it could possibly have started, according to the conditions of the planet at the time. They got 13 ideas how it could have started, and it could have been all of them, depending on where you are.
It's not difficult to come up with schemes for abiogenesis that are plausible. It's actually quite difficult to come up with schemes for abiogenesis that appear to be chemically possible on the early Earth. The problem is we don't know exactly what the early Earth was like. So I've written out 2 schemes myself that are plausible for abiogenesis to have occurred.
One thing I don't get, T-Jump, is how you say that humans aren't observers. Is that, am I saying that?
In physics, the observer effect applies to systems, not to people. Anything that can cause the collapse of the system, which is a sensor in physics, not a person. The observer effect has nothing to do with people.
But like the human eye, isn't that a form of a sensor?
No.
We have ears and
No.
eyes. We have more than one sensory
No.
receptors. Okay.
They don't use human eyes in any kind of physics equation or physics experiment. They use sensors.
What's the definition of observer?
Anything that can cause the collapse of the system. So any sensor that can sense an electron or photon or particle in that sense.
Yeah, but you're coming from that kind of perspective because you
No,
heard, like,
I'm not coming from a perspective. That's literally the definition of the observer theory in physics. In physics, that's literally what it is.
No, but that's what I'm saying. You're speaking from you asked for a definition. You're giving the physics definition.
That's because you brought up the observer effect. The observer effect
Yeah.
is only relevant to physics. You don't get to make up your own definition.
So, and you said humans, we're not sensors. Our eyes aren't sensors or ears, right? Okay.
That's correct. They don't use eyes in a photon sensor.
I never said they use eyes. I'm saying we're able to collapse an atom because we are an observer. In the same way.
No, it does not work in the observer effect. There are no eyes in any observer effect. It's all electrons caused by collapse of particles doing sensors that measure the dual split experiment or entanglement. Eyes don't do that.
Is it possible that that's the conclusion that you're coming to? It's not an actual fact, like the same way I'm kind of coming to the conclusion.
No, you can look at the actual there's a fundamental attitudes in physics paper which literally asks this question, and the physicists think that there's consciousness has anything to do with it. Is like less people than think that global warming is fake. So there are more people who think global warming is fake in physics.
I could cite you the scientific quote from the journal, the scientific journal, if you want.
I just gave you a poll of physicists that says it's less than single-digit percentages of people take that seriously in physics. The answer is no.
Yeah, you said a poll.
Yeah, a poll of the experts in the field. You giving one quote is less evidence than me giving lots and lots of quotes of lots and lots of physicists. Consensus is better than anecdote.
Right.
That's
the
true
consensus
until
is
you
that Coke
realize
is better than Pepsi.
Cherry Coke and
true
cherry
until
Pepsi.
you realize that you're... Okay, I'm sorry.
Hey, T-Jump.
Dang it.
Yep, how's it going?
Hey, what's up, man? So I'm a panpsychist, right?
Why?
And because I believe that that's what best reconciles the evidence that we have. And
why?
Three differing authorities I would kind of appeal to in a very limited sense, obviously, but I would appeal to at least a quote or a view held by Max Planck, as well as Albert Einstein, and Albert Einstein's favorite philosopher, which also happens to be mine, which is Spinoza. Correct, right? That they would all speak of, and their synthesis of what they knew. I mean, the father of quantum physics and the man who synthesized all of classical physics. Those men held a view where they believed that the evidence could be reconciled using mind. I mean, they had differing views. I'm not appealing to their I don't know what their metaphysic actually was, but that what some of the conclusions that they came to could be, I believe, is commensurate with a worldview predicated upon some singular infinite consciousness of which we are all part and parcel with.
That's idealism. But so Einstein wasn't a panpsychist. His quotes are explicitly non-panpsychist. He was a pantheist, maybe. Spinoza was a pantheist, not a panpsychist. Max Planck, I think he's some kind of a consciousness guy. I think he's like an information theorist guy. But so none of them actually support panpsychism. But that doesn't matter because you didn't provide any actual evidence. Like you just said, some people quote. Like, all right.
So the way that I was specifically appealing to Einstein is that in two very specific and distincts, he alludes to what he calls the illusory nature of reality, specifically when it comes to the relationship between space-time and our conception of it.
Yeah, that's called epistemology. It has nothing to do with panpsychism.
No. But so that observation, that piece of evidence,
that it's hard. That's not evidence. He's just saying it's hard to understand stuff. It's hard to learn stuff because physics is hard.
No, he said that he believes that. Here, let me pull up an Einstein quote. How about that? Einstein illusion quote. There's two of them. One says, reality is merely an illusion, albeit a persistent one. So let's take that one as more subjective. He has one that specifically speaks to space-time. Okay, people like us who believe in physics know that the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. And so, if nothing else, he's speaking to the eternality of material or what we perceive to be the material realm. But that's in two different quotes, he speaks of reality as being illusory.
Yeah, that means that our perception, our ideas of reality don't correspond to reality. It doesn't mean it's not material.
Right. That's one way. That's
A theory of time stuff.
A B theorist. But no, what I'm saying is that...
Well, to be perfectly honest, it doesn't matter what you are because you exist in an A theory system. And we observe.
So in physics, A theory is one of the least popular. It's not actually a very good theory of time.
Okay, but the way I had understood was that from our position, in our perception of the flow of entropy, that generates in our head the idea of time.
Yeah,
Whereas
that's
if
the
a
illusion Einstein's talking about. We have an illusion of how reality works in our heads, and that doesn't matter.
But quantum interactions, for example, are like timeless, and that's where the B theory jumps in. So it really depends on what frame of reference you're talking about as to
I would absolutely agree with the way that you just put that. It depends on your frame of reference or your perspective on it.
So nothing
That's
Einstein said supports panpsychism. He's literally saying physicalism and just talking about basic physics and the fact that we can't understand things with our conceptions. That's it. There's nothing non-physical about what he said.
Well, what about this Max Planck quote? All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force which brings the particle of an atom to a vibration and holds this most minute solar system of the atom together. We must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind.
He's wrong.
This mind is the matrix of all matter.
He's wrong. That's the position. That's why among philosophers or physicists, it's a very, very small position, single digits.
But it's still a position, right?
So is the flat Earth. The flat Earth is also a position.
No, but you can put those two in the same category. I mean, Max Planck is.
Yeah, we use that solar system looking model